We all used these back in the day. And it wasn't like today where you just reach up and turn a switch on your headlamp and your light comes on. You don't have to worry about it until the battery runs down. These were took a little more care. You had to maintain them. If you took care of your carbide lamp, this lamp took care of you underground. So I think we all developed a relationship with our lamps that it's not the same as things are today.
What did you name yours?
This lamp was Gill's, as you can see by the orange paint. And it's a just right. There are many like it, but this one was Gill. And it's been sitting for decades, I'm sure. But we're going to fire it up today.
Woo-hoo.
And may it continue to light his way.
Did you have to practice?
This lamp hasn't been fired up this century. So good to go in the first try. That relationship was a love-hate relationship. There we go. We're going. We're going to turn this over to Sarah.
Thank you to everybody for coming out. I'm going to use the speaker. Microphone. Okay, there we go. Thank you. Thank you to everybody for coming out today. Close to the mouth. Okay.
Right on it.
Really close to your mouth.
Really?
I know it was, for some of you, it was a long trip, and we're all here to remember and honor Gill. So thank you for being here today. I wanted to read a brief obituary or bio. He was born on December 20th, 1947 in Beeville, Texas, died on December 7th, 2025 in Austin, Texas. He grew up in Seton where he attended elementary, junior high, and high school. Afterwards, he attended Texas A&I in Kingsville where he discovered cave exploring and graduated in 1970. He had a life filled with adventures, including caving, rafting, serving in the Army in Vietnam, and becoming a trained conductor engineer. And in a minute, the folks sitting up here are going to talk about some of the phases of this, but I have to thank a lot of people.
Close, really close.
One inch from the mouth. There we go. Okay, so there were many people who helped Gill and took care of Gill. Many of them are in this room right now. But I want to thank all of them. The powers of attorney caregivers, that's Peter Sprouse, Jessica Gordon, Kathy Winfrey, and Josie Hooper.
Woo!
And I'll give them a big round of applause. This is a list of other people who helped him, brought him food, took him shopping for clothes, did all kinds of things to help him over the years as his health declined. And so I would like any of the people on this list to stand up, please. Stand up.
It's everybody in the room. So many people.
If you're not on the list, someone who helped with the meal train or some other task, even just stop by to say hi to Gill, like Terry Raines used to do, just pop in when he was still on Mockingbird. Yeah, so you all, thank you too. Thank you for taking care of me. So, the phases of Gill's life: childhood in Sinton on West Market Street, college at A&I, camping, Army, Post Army, Wilson County Farm, Kirkwood, Mexico rafting, Mockingbird neighborhood, conducting and driving trains, and arborist. And so the folks that are going to speak first are going to talk about these different phases of Gill's life. But I'm Gill's cousin, and I don't ever remember a time in my life that Gill wasn't there. He was 5 years older than me, and so quite honestly, I was very intimidated by him when we were little kids. He was always big for his age, and he was towering, and he was always into some kind of mischief or dreaming up some prank or some project. So when I got to be older, though, I was very close to his sister. We were like sisters, and I spent a lot of holidays, summer vacations, things like that, in the Ediger household on West Market Street in Sinton. And that was a wonderful place to spend time. Gill was always up to something there. He had this wonderful tree house, and it was in the chicken yard. And out back they had chickens, banty roosters, pheasants. One year his mom made pheasant hats for all the women in the family. Gill had pigs that were out behind. There was a gravel road behind the alley that was behind the house, and the pigs were out there, and so we'd go see the pigs and hang out. So that was fun. I was very impressed with the tree house. And his family was funny. His parents were really funny. I remember one night in the summer we were eating dinner, and everybody was drinking iced tea. At the end of the meal, his parents wadded up their napkins and were trying to throw their napkin into the spouse's glass at the other end of the table. So that was just a kind of family that always had pranks going. And Gill and his dad sometimes collaborated on the pranks. And so the biggest thing that probably some of you have heard this story is they invented a kind of faux car phone back in the 60s before people even had cell phones. So what they did is Gill rigged up a kind of a ringer in the bottom of the 57 Chevy. You could press it and it went ring, ring, ring. And then his dad, I guess there was some old field phone from, Gill's dad was a soil conservation agent for San Patricio County. So he had some kind of old phone thing, and so they rigged it up with a cord and a little rack inside the 57 Chevy. They used to drive up next to people that they knew at a traffic light and ring the bell and then hand the phone out. And people were just flabbergasted. So it was really just a wonderful place to grow up. And Gill always considered that house on West Market Street to be his childhood home, even though after several floods, his family moved to the other end of Market Street. But anyway, it was just a wonderful experience. So now it's time to go on to the other speakers. And the first person that I'm going to ask to speak is Jill Moody, because she covered a lot of years after his childhood on. And I want to say
we
that
can't hear very well back
okay.
here.
Okay, I'll try to talk. Jill, even though they divorced, the family still kept her. We love her.
Well, I wrote mine down because I tend to ramble, and if I'd be up here forever, I was trying to tell stories of Gill. So forgive me if I do a little reading, speaking. I was born and raised in Corpus Christi. A couple of my older brothers had gone to A&I for their education, and it was close to home, so that's where I ended up at A&I. And my second semester at A&I, I pledged a sorority, Alpha Delta Pi. And that was real good for a shy girl like me. So, because I had all the sisterhood, but the frat parties were kind of not my cup of tea. A lot of drinking, a lot of loud music, a lot of dancing and funky stuff going on. And so that part of the sisterhood thing attract me too much. But one day I saw a notice of an upcoming caving meeting. And it sounded interesting. I didn't know anything about spelunking, and I didn't know what spelunking was at the time. But anyway, I decided to go to that meeting, and I did. And of course, Gill was kind of always the ringleader out there, or one of the ringleaders. There were a lot of ringleaders, but it seemed real interesting. And he was encouraged everybody. He was always encouraged new people to come, stay, get involved. So they had some classes scheduled for rappelling and tying knots and learning how to do, how to light a carbide lamp. That, and yet one of their things was to blindfold you. This wasn't in my speech. They'd blindfold, but that carbide light reminded me of it. They'd blindfold you, and after they had taught you how to light it, and blindfolded, you had to change the carbide in the bottom. You had to take the little, I can't remember what you call it, that little thing in the front that the string goes through. Tip, yeah, you had to take the tip out and put a new one in. You had to fish around in your bag and find it, and put it in and stuff, and then light it. And when you could pass that test, then you could go on these trips. So, our first trip that I went on was to Bustamante. And how many, raise your hand if you've been to Bustamante. Okay. So I don't have to explain too much about that. Okay, the cave was beautiful. Anyway, I was pretty hooked, and Gill knew all the places to go. He knew all the little mamacita places where the ladies were out there making the tortillas on their legs, and then we'd go buy, several dozen tortillas. And so I was pretty impressed. He always seemed to know how to maneuver through these towns and get us to where we needed to go and stuff like that. And I kind of liked the camping and just the camaraderie. The cavers were a whole different group, much better than the frat boys. Much better. So one of the things that we started doing there, and he kind of led this, every Friday night, we were all poor back then. I don't know that students today know what poor is, but we ate a lot of beans. Gill always had a pot of beans on him. You could always go there and get a pot of beans and a tortilla. So, they had $5 Friday night movies at the drive-in theater. And you could cram all the people you could in your vehicle. It was $5 per car. And so cavers are pretty good at cramming people in little spaces. So we'd go to the drive-in theater, and he had one of these panel vans, one of these old vans, blue van. I don't know if any of you remember that, but we'd get in there and we'd take our honky chairs. Now, most of you are old enough to know what a honky chair is, but those little cheap folding chairs that you used to get at Walmart or Target. And we liked the ones that sat real close to the ground, so you didn't have far to fall and hit the ground if you drank too much beer. So we'd get out there to the drive-in theater, and people would come out of the car, come out of the truck, come out of the truck, come out of the truck. We'd have, 15 people in the back of that truck, and everybody would get their chairs out and bring their ice chests out. And we'd have a great old time once a week on Friday nights. And it was kind of like a group date. It was a group date. And it was great because everybody's really accepting of everybody else and just had a good time. So going along, one night Gill says, "Would you like to go out just with me?" He says, "I want to show you something that I like to do." And I said, "Sure." So he came and got me at my dorm, and we walked across campus. And they had this big grassy area. I can't remember what they called it. It's kind of like a parade field if you've been in the military, grass and sidewalks and go all the way around it and benches. And at the corner of this thing was a big oak tree, big old oak tree. And we went down there and we climbed that oak tree. And it was, the branches were low enough. He helped me up a little to the first one, but from then on, we went way up high in it. And they had all these great sitting places. You could lean against a branch and stuff. We got real quiet. He says, "Just get real quiet and watch." And so we watched all these people going back and forth, you know, walking, and they'd stop underneath the tree, and a couple would kiss, and they'd sit on the bench and talk, and you could overhear all the conversations. It was real entertaining. I mean, you know, and he says, oh, I do this anytime I get bored. I just come out here and climb this tree and listen and see what's going on, and who's dating who, and who's doing what with who and stuff. And he says, you can find out all kinds of interesting things. So I thought, you know, this guy's really different. He's certainly not like anybody else I knew. And so as time went on, we kind of started dating more seriously. And my second semester in, I decided to go to San Marcos, to Southwest Texas State. So I transferred from A&I to Southwest Texas. And then, of course, we started dating a little heavier because he didn't like me not being around, I think. And not too long after that, we decided to get married. But when I was at Southwest Texas State, I got introduced to all the Austin cavers and Kirkwood House.
Yeah.
It was just everybody lived there. So how many people lived here in Kirkwood? Well, you know, it was just a place you went. There was always kind of just a group of people hanging out and having fun. I remember going through the bathroom and opening the window and climbing out the window onto the roof. And you laid out on the roof and you looked at the stars, and the trains came by and made a bunch of racket, and you could watch all the traffic and everything. It was great fun. You know, it was just kind of like a home sort of thing, you know. So then, as time progressed, Gill and I decided to get married. So we looked for, we were thinking about, well, where are we going to get married? Because my family I had a large family. He just had one sister, Aaron. And his family was a little smaller, but, you know, we were pretty into caving together at that time. So we started looking for a place, and he said, I used to work some at Natural Bridge Caverns when they were mapping and doing some development out there. He says, let me go talk to the owner. He knew the owner, whose name escapes me, but so he went over and talked to him, and they said, well, I don't know, wedding, I don't know that we want to start that. A lot of people have asked us before if we could get married there, but at the time, Gill was, I think they call him chairman of the TSA or something like that. He was somebody up there, an officer type in the TSA, and he told him, it'll be great publicity for your, you know, for your wedding, you know, it'll be any good in it, all the papers, and we'll tell them what a wonderful place Natural Bridge is and how they ought to go there and stuff, you know. Anyway, somehow he sweet-talked them. He could sweet-talk just about anybody into anything. He sweet-talked them into letting us get married there. So a lot of probably people in this room had a lot to do with pulling that off, because we had lots of help getting that place ready. We spent several weekends putting out special lighting and getting all the ushers, and then everybody figured out where they were going to be, and we found this nice little place to stand, and so we figured it out. And John Kreidler, you know, say a few words, was Gill's best man, and they were long-time roommates and life friends. And my friend Debbie Morong was my maid of honor, and my sister-in-law Dory Moody and friend Mimi Goldstein played the guitar and sang. So at the back entrance to Natural Bridge Caverns, how many people have been to Natural Bridge Caverns? Okay, so I don't have to explain too much. When you exited the place, that was where we got married. In that last giant room, they had a walkway that went around the left and the right, this big mound of dirt we went on, okay? But it looked like dirt, it didn't smell. But one of my cousins found out it was not dirt, and she wanted to get a little higher. She stepped in it up to her ankle. That was not a good scene. But anyway, I didn't find out about that till later. But they put all of our ushers put these little sacks with candles, you know, around the pathway, so you know where to walk, left and right. They guided people in, and they stood in these two exit ways around this mountain that looks down into the valley, sort of. And we were already in place. They didn't know it because it was dark. Only the candle lights were on. So John and Debbie and me and Gill and the preacher were standing there off to the side on this one little kind of flat area of formations. And they, after everybody got in place and the singers sang their little music and stuff, you know, it got real quiet. And then, I don't know, who was operating the lights? Was that you, Ronnie? Were you operating the lights?
No, I was taking pictures.
You were taking pictures, okay. Well, anyway, they flipped on the lights and the spotlights came on us and there we were and everybody, there was all these gasps in the audience, you know. And there we were. Man, tuxes, I was in a wedding dress. I mean, a real full-length white, you know, traditional wedding dress. And Gill was in his tux and we had this nice little ceremony. And then, of course, Gill, you know Gill, right? He didn't tell me this was gonna happen, but when he got down at the end, he started unbuttoning his tux. So, what on earth are you doing? You know? And then somebody posted that picture on the memorial site. He pulled open his chest. Carter Valley sucks. That was one of the other things that he did, of course, when we were dating, is he introduced me to Carter Valley. He introduced me to a lot of things, and skinny dipping at Happy Hollow. I kind of took to skinny dipping. I liked it. And we did a lot of skinny dippings in my memory in those years. You know, whenever we go to an SS convention or something, we'd find some little private creek somewhere and people go down and go skinny dipping. Anyway, so he pulled open his chest and there it was. Carter Valley sucks. So everybody know, anybody not, who knows about Carter Valley? Okay, so in nice little dips in the, nice little.
Heard of it before.
That's my wife Judy. She doesn't know all of this.
I said I never.
Don't tell her too many things.
I never heard of it before.
Oh, they were really wild.
So anyway,
She's blushing. They
so
were
to
really
the honor of
wild.
Gill Ediger. I just had to do it. I said, what can I do to him to joy?
Do it again.
I had to show that. So, let's see, I have to go back to my notes. I've got my own script, so I'm not sure where I am. Okay, so we did the tree date. The tree date, I think, is the one that kind of made me say, he's pretty good. He might be a good guy. Okay, so then there was my honeymoon, our honeymoon. My mother and my stepfather gave us their apartment in Corpus Christi. And they went to Colorado or somewhere where they had another place to stay. And so we went to Corpus Christi for my honeymoon. The next day, Hurricane Carla hit Corpus Christi. So Hurricane Carla was one of the worst hurricanes in Corpus Christi history. And so that the night before it hit, we were watching the news and it was saying, the eye's going to come over Corpus. And Gill said, we've got to leave, we've got to go to Center. And I said, leave? I grew up in Corpus. I never left the place, but I never lived in an apartment either. He says, I built these apartments back in the day, helped build these. I know what they're built like, and they're not going to stand the direct hit from a hurricane. So I called my mother and I said, told her what we were going to do. I said, what do you want to say? And she said, well, the only thing I have is one file cabinet, it's got important papers in it. So I said, okay, we'll put it in an interior closet where there are no windows and on the second floor. Hope it's still there. And we took all their plants, she had all these hanging plants on the back porch. And they had these little private fenced-in back porches, had a fence around it, and she had all these hanging plants and stuff. We bought them all in the living room. The living room was full of plants.
5 minutes to finish.
5 minutes to finish, okay. So, we left, and then we came back the next day after the hurricane hit. And my mother's apartment was fine. We had one broken window upstairs, a little bit of water. The fence came down and missed the plate glass window and glass sliding doors by a good 12 inches. But the units that were 90 degrees to them, entire apartment, they got wiped out. Their furniture was in the cemetery and in the swimming pool, and the windows were literally gone, and shirted curtains were flying out the windows and stuff like that. And so we came back, and since our apartment was livable, we stayed there, and we had a blast. No electricity. And Dennis Bryan, I saw over there, gave us a little special treat, which we used. Thank you very much. We enjoyed while we were in that darkness. And there was a big barbecue area, and everybody's freezer was out, so everybody bought their food down there. We had, this group of guys just drank beer all day and cooked, barbecued. You go by here, eat some. Fish, steak, hamburgers, anything that went in the fridge, sausage, whatever went in the freezer, a lot of fish and flounder and things like that. We ate all day. You know, you saw, here, eat something, because they had all this food going to waste. So that was exciting. We had an exciting honeymoon.
Army.
Okay, Army. Let's get the Army. Okay, sorry. Okay, move in. Okay, so Gill and I got married, and about 2 months later he went in the military, and we did all the normal stuff. We went to officer basic, and then we went up to west of Boston for military intelligence school. He got accepted in military intelligence school. And then we went from there, he got accepted, he wanted to apply for rotary, fixed wing helicopter, rotary helicopter. So we went to helicopter school at Fort Rucker. At Fort Rucker, he had enough time then to form a new caving group called the Frogs. Any frogs in here? Fort Rucker, I can't remember what the O was for. Ozark? Ozark Grotto.
That's another little town down there.
Yeah, that's where we lived. We had a house in Ozark. So we did some caving there and made some good friends, Phil Winkler and Paul Boyer and Jim and Linda Harrison. I was trying to think who all was down there, but it was a great caving group. And so from there, Gill applied for fixed wing, kind of fixed wing plane, and he got accepted. So I went back to school because I still had 2 years to do to get my degree. So Fort Rucker, Troy State, Alabama, had a school there at Fort Rucker, so I was taking courses at Fort Rucker to try to finish my degree. And so I stayed at Fort Rucker, and he went to Georgia. It was only about a 3-month course, and he got fixed wing qualified. So he was real excited about doing that, but we knew he was probably coming down on orders from Vietnam pretty soon. I mean, that was just kind of the writing on the wall. But he was real excited because the helicopters went down all the time. They shot those things out of the sky all the time. But the fixed wings, not one in that whole war had been shot down. And the fixed wing plane was a spy plane. It had all this electronic equipment on it. It flew real low, found out where the enemy was, and located it and stuff, and sent the information back so they could be bombed. So he was excited about doing that. And he had about 2 weeks to ship out, and 3 spy planes were shot down. Oh, brother. So anyway, he had 2 weeks, and he wanted to go say goodbye to his family in Sinton. I was still in school, so I stayed in Fort Rucker, and he came to Folks. And he was flirting around like he always does with a group of friends, cavers at Padre Island. And one of his favorite things to do was to blow up these balloons, make a balloon out of a plastic garbage sack, one of these lawn and leaf bags. So he had acetylene oxygen tanks, because he could weld. He'd fill them up with acetylene and oxygen, tie a knot on them, put a rag on the end, light the rag and let it go. And it'd go way up in the air, get way up there, and make this big bomb. Most of the time. Well, he was tying one off, and the static electricity set it off. And it scorched his eyebrows, burned his face, broke both eardrums. So they rushed him to the Naval Hospital there in Corpus, and they called his commander, said, this guy can't fly, his eardrums are busted. So they said, it's going to be 6 months before he's ready to fly. They said, I think his branch commander thought he did it on purpose, so he wouldn't have to go to Vietnam. That isn't what happened, but anyway, they said, well, hell, he can heal over there as well as he can heal here. Send him over there, we'll make him an MP. he can be an MP until he can fly again. So he sent him to Vietnam, and he flew into Saigon. This is the story he told me. He got in late at night at Saigon, checked into where these barracks were, where they checked them in. He gave him a blanket and a sheet and a pillow and said, go up to the 3rd floor, take any bed on the floor. And he says, oh, by the way, if the sirens sound, just roll over on the floor and pull the mattress on top of you. And he said, okay. So he went up on 3rd floor. There weren't very many people there, but he picked a bed as far away from the windows and as close to the structural wall as he could. And he picked a bed and laid in it and was trying to go to sleep and everything. And the siren sounded. And so he rolled on the floor and pulled the mattress over him. And I think it's the first time in his life he probably ever prayed. But anyway, there were all these explosions going all around him. And he thought, oh boy, my curiosity is over. And that's what he told me. He was real curious about going to a war zone, Vietnam, big new adventure. Woo, woo. He says, that was it. He says, from then on, it's survival. Survival was his thing. So he did survive. He was an MP for 3 months, riding around in a Jeep with a pistol, mostly breaking up GI fights and taking people to and from jail. So he wasn't really on the front lines, and his ears wouldn't heal. The doctors kept looking at his ears, trying different things to get him to heal, and wouldn't heal. So they medevaced him back to Fort Sam and rebuilt his eardrums there. And it worked. And he, as far as I know, he heard pretty good the rest of his life. We all get a little hard at hearing when we get older. But so in about 6 months, he was released to fly. So we went to Fort Belvoir, Virginia, and he was a helicopter pilot there. So we went to Fort Belvoir and did a lot of West Virginia caving. I mean, those people knew how to cave. There were so many caves and such beautiful terrain, and